This is Markin Out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Follow on Twitter. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Marking Out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. Brennan likes fisting. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. We marking out, y'all. We're marking out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans.
Welcome to Markin Out. Pro Wrestling Talk by Pro Wrestling fans. This is episode 740. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Make sure you check us out, markinout.com. Also, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and also iHeartRadio. Give us a 5-star rating to go with that 5-star frog splash. We appreciate it. You can give us a like on Facebook, follow on Instagram at Markin11, follow on TikTok and Twitter at Markin Out, and you can follow me, Dave the Rave, on all social media platforms, David PTDPT. Follow Chris on Twitter at CMSweeney85 and Instagram at Chris Sweendog. Or it's the other way around.
Yeah.
But you'll find him. Yeah, you flipped it. It got flip it and reverse it, but go follow him. And as you heard, he's here. That is right. It is Brandon. Brandon.
How'd you call me Brandon? What was that?
Brandon. Go follow him. BTTG161. Brandon.
No, don't call me Brandon. I'm doing awesome as always. That's weird. How was your week? Ugh. So, how was your week?
It was good. How was yours?
It was nice. It was lovely.
Yeah, that's good. I'm happy for you.
I tried Dang Barbecue for the first time.
With Fandango?
Out in Seaford.
Never heard of it.
It used to be the Seaford Palace way back when, and I used to go there literally all the time. But then
legit doesn't help me.
Well, it was a diner in Seaford, but now it's a barbecue restaurant in Seaford. And I thought it was pretty good. They give you chips on your table beforehand, so it was pretty. I wasn't expecting that. It was interesting.
Hey, that's always a plus when they give you some of those delicious chips on the table.
Yeah. Outside of that, I got to say, a couple of weeks ago, I was very, very on the fence with season 3 of the White Lotus, and it was a borderline anti-shout-out. But with the season finale airing this week, I have to say that the finale was probably the best episode of the season. I still liked...
Why?
I just thought it was... The way that they tied everything together, I thought worked. There were some things that I wish happened differently instead of what actually happened. And I very much so... Seasons 1 and 2 I thought were so much better than season 3. And I hope season 4 is much better than what season 3 was. You binge watched all 3 seasons and say that you hate the show. So
I wasn't that much of a fan of it. I started it because it's what everybody's talking about, and I needed something in the background while I do work.
How about cooking with Brandon? You could have ran that back to back to back.
Nah, I've already done that. Been there, done that. I needed something new. So I tossed it on, and I gave it a shot. The first season, the first few episodes, there's nobody on any of the seasons that I actually liked. Like maybe 2 characters. Everybody else I really didn't like, and I kind of hoped that their trip was doomed. They just were not good people. It was one of those things where I could have stopped if there was anything else on TV to watch or just to have in the background, but I didn't know what else to put on. I don't really get the craze of it all. Yeah, Jennifer Coolidge still annoys me.
I don't know.
I hate her gimmick. Her gimmick is annoying. It's annoying.
But do you think, seeing what happened to her in season 2, do you think that season 3 was missing her, or because you don't like her, you didn't care?
I didn't care. I didn't care. There was so much going on where I didn't know within the plot lines which storyline I should be caring more about. I didn't like the graphic nature of some of the scenes either. I thought they were over the top and unnecessary to get a point across for a good storyline. The acting was good. Yeah. I don't know. It just didn't do anything really for me.
So you are pumped to watch season 4 of The White Lotus?
Nah. I don't care. Like, if it's on TV, if I don't have anything to put on...
You care enough that you binge watch the whole series.
There was legit nothing else to put on while I was doing work.
You could have tossed an episode of Markin Out on YouTube. You've never heard that before?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Listen to my soothing voice.
No. And I did fast forward. I did binge, as in I did fast forward a lot, too, at times.
If you're Dave from the future listening to this, hello. Concentrate on your work.
Yeah. I did fast forward on the speed skip of 60 at times, especially some of the scenes I just didn't care for. Or if any of the conversations were dragging on, I fast forwarded.
You know, not that I fast forward shows, but I like the fact that Netflix gives me the ability to watch in faster speeds and not lose the content by having it just muted. So if a show, like I could watch a show on Netflix in not 0.5, that'd be slower, but like 1.25 I think it is, or 1.5, I'm not sure, and then 2 speed. So it goes...
Oh, I understand.
And you could watch an episode that's, let's say, an hour long. You're watching it on 2 speed. You watch it in 30 minutes.
Huh. I didn't think about doing something like that. I may actually do something like that, but...
And sometimes those shows are like, there's just no dialogue where you're not missing anything if you have it on that fast.
The thing is, so with White Lotus, the dialogue... I was not entertained. Like, there were some scenes that there was no scenes where I was like on the edge of my seat being like, I need to see what's about to happen. Maybe season 1, but I don't
finale,
really remember.
though, that season finale, my jaw literally dropped open with that. That's the thing. Reveal.
The season finale where the climax happened, I didn't care. I was just like, I was borderline laughing. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. This is so stupid. This is so stupid.
But also, season 1 and 2 had much better locations, I think. When they show like the monkeys and stuff running around the resort, I don't want to be near that.
The season finale of this season made no sense to me. Can we talk about that climax?
I mean...
Spoiler alert. Spoiler. Skip ahead if you watch White Lotus or anything like that. Spoiler alert, okay? Pure spoiler alert. Do we have to say it one more time?
Spoiler
Fast
alert.
forward right now. Yeah, fast forward by like 5 minutes to be safe. But they totally Star Wars'd it.
I've never seen Star Wars, so I don't know what you mean by that.
Oh, spoiler, Brandon. It's his dad.
Spoiler, he is your father.
Yeah, like once she said that, I'm like, this is so stupid.
I thought my jaw was on the floor, man. That's the first time watch for me.
Yeah, I don't get that. Like, I don't understand. Like, you said that your jaw was on the floor. I don't get it. Like, nothing for nothing. You do have good taste in movies and music. But I just don't get how that was a jaw-dropping moment. And
because nobody knew that. I don't know how it wasn't.
Well, that's the thing. Like
this whole season was building up for him, knowing that his father was killed by this person, and he knows where the person is. He knows that he can go there and probably kill him. And it all leads up to that one moment where it's like, you idiot. He does end up killing him. And it's like, you idiot. That is your father.
Okay, first off, why did the dad not... Why did he act the way that he was and that he didn't just be like, hey, I am your father?
I guess...
Like, why did he have to...
Based off of that conversation about what he called his mother, I would assume that's why.
But it just doesn't make any sense why this guy's not going to be, like, happy or... hey, I'm your father, or why this other...
It very much so makes sense based on that conversation he had about the mother. He literally...
Nothing for nothing, but he also showed him a gun in a threatening manner.
Yes, but that's also because of what happened prior.
I mean...
like, he's showing him, like, don't even try anything. I have these guards, I have this gun.
You know what would have solved all of that, being like, hey, I'm your dad. I'm sorry I haven't been there for you. Come sit down with me and let's talk.
And what really sucks is
you realize that would have solved it. That would have solved everything.
If that didn't happen, the ending didn't happen, and he actually did say, like, hey, I am your father, he would have been loaded.
Exactly. Like, why didn't he just sit down and be like, hey, I have to talk to you?
But again, it's probably
like, that would have
the
solved
feelings
so much.
that it's probably the feelings that the guy had towards his mother. That why would he tell him that?
It just didn't make any sense to me.
I mean,
at all.
He called the mother a big old W, so
yeah.
So, I mean, it makes sense to me.
And then why is it every single person on this show commits adultery and wants to cheat on their spouses?
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
like,
not everybody. Not everybody. Chelsea was very adamant about not doing that. So
true.
And in
why
the end,
is there so much?
She lost her life, unfortunately.
Exactly. So she was innocent, but like, and then the incest. We could have done without that.
Very much so. And it's weird because the very first episode, I think it was, of this season, it seemed like the two younger kids were going to be doing that.
Exactly.
Which, right from the start, I was like, well, I don't know why that's even a remotely thing. And then what happened. I was like, why the hell is that even a thing? Why is this happening?
I know.
That I don't know.
That's the thing.
White,
like, I feel like
no idea what that was about.
Yeah, I feel like because of those things, I was not a fan of anybody. Like, I'm not a fan of any adultery, like, character. I'm not a fan of... I just couldn't enjoy any single person on the show where I'm like, okay, the only person is the masseuse.
Belinda.
Yeah, because she's just trying to do her business and, for the past 2 seasons.
And then a lot of people were like, she basically Tanya'd the guy. Because Tanya promised her money or whatever, and then she gets the money, and she's like, not a right fit. But it's a lot different because Tanya was absolutely loaded. She's just at $5 million at this point. So,
yeah,
I don't know, man.
Yeah, there was just so much going on where, I feel like I just needed to see sometimes what was... I can't even say I needed to see. I was curious to see what was going to happen. If I lost connection and wasn't able to finish the season or anything like that, I would have been okay. I think that the characters I just couldn't connect with. The characters I couldn't relate to. The characters I couldn't care for. Or anything like that. Also,
why did the father not wash the blender out?
Why didn't the kid wash the blender either?
He was on the Tonight Show.
That's disgusting.
He was on the
Brandon,
Tonight Show. Wait a minute. He was on the Tonight Show, and he said the whole reason why his character did not do that was because he thought the older brother made a protein shake, and it was leftover protein shake, so that's why he added more protein powder and water. So that makes sense.
And the older brother was just way too annoying, too.
Yeah, but I think he had that 180 sort of deal reading those books and everything.
Yeah. I maybe. Yeah. There was just so much that I can't even remember with the second season too. The second season, I felt bad for that one guy that was fairly innocent, that was caught in the cheating scandal. Like, everybody else, I just didn't care for. Like, the character of Audrey Plaza, I didn't care for.
But it made you want to go to Hawaii and Italy at least, or no?
No. No, not at all. Like, the Audrey Plaza's character, I'm like watching it, I'm like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. And then everything took place with her, and I'm like, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. We know what you did. I hate you. Like, yeah. So that's why I'm not like hooked in the show where I like enjoy it. I think the characters, I just don't. In life, I don't like people with those traits or characteristics, like at all. So that's probably why I'm not full blown into the premise of it. But I was very curious to see why everybody, because it is the hot show on HBO for the past few years. But I just don't get it. Maybe it's people's secret fantasies playing out on TV. I don't know. I just like people's fetishes being played out on TV. I don't get it.
I just think for the most part, it's good television.
With better television out there. I don't think it deserves the praise that it does get, though. In my personal
I feel
opinion,
like you can't actually say that because you didn't fully watch. You didn't fully invest the time.
I mean, the character of like Leslie Bibb and stuff like that, all of those, that trio, I was like there's so many moments in these episodes where I'm like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many things that happen where I'm like, yeah. Yeah. But that's the White Lotus podcast. All right.
You're not going to try.
I guess we can move on from White Lotus and get onto the wrestling.
I was going to say, you're not going to say Piper.
Piper?
Yeah, that's how she would say it.
Oh, I don't remember.
Piper. That was like the famous thing on this season.
Really?
Yeah, how Parker Posey would say Piper. The way she would,
I don't remember.
The way she would talk and be like, Piper, no. Her accent. That's literally everybody spoke about Parker Posey's accent on this season.
Yeah, no. I think season 1 I was most into. I did like the character transgression of this young son. You know, I did like that transition and everything like that. Even the friend on that episode, I'm like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. Like, you're putting this person in jeopardy.
Now do it to the theme song.
I
was
forget
joking.
it.
You're like thinking about it.
Yeah,
Let's just
you
move
know
on to,
not to ask me to
which, by
do-
the way, the composer, apparently they got to a fight with Mike White. Guess he's not back.
Who's Mike White?
Mike White's the creator.
Oh, he's the director, producer, right?
The writer.
So what's the deal with him and Survivor?
I think he was just a fan and
wasn't
asked
he
to be
a
on
contestant?
It. Yeah, but I think he was like a fan and asked to be on it or something like that.
Because then I saw like he was developing the White Lotus while he was on Survivor.
Yeah, I think he was just like a super fan of Survivor and asked to be on it.
That's so wild.
You're basically saying don't watch the White Lotus, go watch School of Rock or something else.
Oh no, School of Rock is great.
Yeah, so that's one of his movies. Nacho Libre is one of his movies. I was surprised with that.
I actually have never seen it. I've seen bits and pieces. I've seen bits and pieces of Nacho Libre, but I've never actually watched it fully. I think I've seen probably 10 minutes total of it.
It's based on a true story.
Yeah. But, all right, let's move on from the White Lotus episode and go on to some pro wrestling talk. Talk about some Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, it kicked off with Adam Pearce. And he called Io out. He called Bianca Belair out. He called Rhea Ripley out. I think we knew where this was leading to. I don't think... He said that he was wrong to make Bianca Belair the referee last week because none of them could handle it like professionals. And then, like I've been saying for weeks, it's going to be a triple threat match at WrestleMania. He announced that. Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, again, both disrespected Io in this segment. She got pissed off. She drop-kicked Io right into Bianca Belair and then signed the contract to make everything official.
Yeah, it was very obvious and predictable that this was going to happen. Do you think that it's possible that Io picks up the victory?
I do think it's possible, but I also feel like if anyone else is going to be winning, it would be Rhea Ripley.
I don't see Belair
finally
winning it,
Rhea Ripley beats Io moment sort of thing.
Unless you have Bianca win and then pair up Bianca with Jade Cargill at some point.
Why would that make any sense?
Because I still think that Bianca is not innocent in all of this. Because I still think that Bianca is with Naomi and that there's still...
I feel like it would be well established by now if they were going that route.
I think so too, but it just, I don't know. To me, it doesn't... Bianca doesn't scream face to me for a while, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the fans are booing her, so... Which then the internet's calling them racist for, so...
What?
Yep.
I guess you can't boo heels and cheer faces anymore in pro wrestling.
The first match of Monday Night Raw saw Lyra Valkyria pick up the victory over Bayley to retain the Intercontinental Championship. I think they had a lot of good reversals in this match and a lot of good pin attempts.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of "Let's go Bayley, let's go Lyra" chants, which I thought was nice for Lyra.
Yeah, glad to hear the support for her, especially against somebody as established as Bayley.
She hit that nice tornado DDT and rolled through for the fisherman suplex, which Bayley got out of. And then eventually Bayley had that lion tamer locked in. She tried for a rose plant when Lyra was clearly not going to be tapping out. And Lyra rolled through that, won that, and retained the championship. But given the match that's happening on, or that happened on SmackDown by the time you listen to this, I expected some of the tag teams to interrupt this match.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting that we got this full match. I guess now we don't have to see, but I think now they're tied. So maybe we do have to see a third match between the two of them for the championship. I have no idea. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm sure, I mean, I'll put a pin in everything. After that, we had the Creeds and El Grande Americano pick up the victory over the LWO. El Grande Americano, not his hometown, but getting that hometown pop.
Yeah, he's getting over.
This eventually got a bit chaotic, and I lost track of who was actually legal. But once it got back on track, you had Dragon Lee hit a powerbomb. Julius Creed broke that pin up with a shooting star press. They had more high-flying spots. I think the best spot from this match was that Joaquin Wilde spot, where he used Cruz del Toro to step up onto Julius's back to then dive to the outside onto Brutus Creed. So you had that very impressive spot from 2024 with Joaquin Wilde. I would say this is a very impressive spot in 2025 from Joaquin Wilde. And the fans were very happy with this whole match. And it came to an end. Ivy Nile gave El Grande Americano a piece of metal, which he used to put into his mask. Rey Mysterio saw that, and he eats a headbutt. And then Dragon Lee tried to get the mask off, but he ate a headbutt, and then Americano hit a flying headbutt to pick up that victory.
Yeah, he still got to hit that flying headbutt with that piece of metal for the assist.
And then later on, Rey Mysterio went to Adam Pearce about that, and he's like, I want a match, and Adam Pearce set up a match at WrestleMania.
It should be really good.
I was expecting a mask versus mask match, but... But I also, you can also have that spot happen without Rey's mask being on the line.
True. Yeah, I wouldn't put his mask on the line.
Because I fully expect El Grande Americano to be unmasked at WrestleMania.
I'd be interested if it wasn't him.
That'd be wild, man. I don't know how they would go about doing that.
I mean, I feel like you would have to roll underneath, like have maybe Gable wrestle the match and then roll underneath the ring and then come back out.
You would need a
and then
serious
go through
body
the
double.
unmasking spot.
You would need a serious body double.
I mean, it could be a serious body double or not, because it kind of still plays with the comedic stuff. Like, it's legit him. He rolled under the ring and there was a swap.
And then Otis pops up or something instead.
Maybe.
After that, you had Gunther come out, which Jey Uso interrupted before Gunther could even say anything. And there was no yeet shirt. He wasn't yeeting. He was all seriousness. And Jey asked Gunther about, he's like, oh, what do you and your mom talk about? Because this week I had to speak about Jimmy being laid up in a hospital. And Jey said that in his darkest time, he realized that he's no longer afraid of Gunther. So I thought this was a very well done segment.
I thought that this was a necessary segment.
Yeah.
Especially with going into WrestleMania, I feel like everybody is really not expecting, or at least I'm not expecting, Jey to pick up the victory over Gunther. And I feel like this kind of lit the fire underneath Jey to be that on that level of maybe he can actually pick up a victory over Gunther.
I
still think that Gunther's coming out the winner.
I fully expect Jey to win, and I think this was probably one of Jey's best promos.
I agree. I think this was one of Jey's best promos. Would you have Jimmy appear on TV before WrestleMania now, or no? Hold off.
He's off till TV. He's off TV. What do you mean?
Yeah, I agree.
He's going to wheel down.
Would you have him at WrestleMania, though?
Trish Stratus is going to wheel him down at WrestleMania. He's going to stand up and kick Gunther below the belt.
I probably wouldn't even involve him at WrestleMania.
I feel like
just keep him.
If something happens, there has to be something. Maybe I don't know if unless Kaiser gets involved or something. I feel like that's how we could see Jimmy. That segment made me less want some sort of stipulation like a Bloodline Rules match. So I'm glad that they did that. So
I can understand that. Next up, you had the New Day pick up the victory over the War Raiders, but it is by disqualification. Ivar, he got a little bit too aggressive with that chair.
Well, I guess.
I know.
I mean, yes, it was Ivar who did that, but also
yeah.
I feel like that spot was supposed to look like it wasn't him deliberately doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were having a tug of war over the chair, him and Kofi.
Oh, so you think that maybe it was supposed to be him letting go of the chair and it hitting him?
Yeah, and then the ref would see, like the ref wouldn't see the tug of war or something, and then he would turn around or whatever and see that spot where it looks like Ivar's using the chair.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. That I agree. I think that would have been better. I agree.
And was it Kofi or was it Woods? I don't remember. I know Woods introduced the chair.
Woods. It was Woods.
And I didn't understand Woods trying to do that because the titles are on the line.
Mm-hmm.
So that didn't make sense to me. But I liked this match. I liked the constant tags from both teams. So, and then Kofi Kingston, he was the one that ripped that chair over Ivar's back. And New Day pounced on Eric as well and sent him into a corner with that chair that was set up. And then officials prevented New Day from hitting a move to Eric onto the chair. So,
yeah,
it was a good segment. After that, you had Penta pick up the victory over Dominic Mysterio. Earlier, it was announced that they're going to have a fatal four-way for the Intercontinental Championship alongside Finn Balor and Braun Breaker at WrestleMania. Finn Balor kind of took some digs at Dom during the segment that followed the announcement. But as far as this match goes, I thought it was fun. It was pretty even.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that this was very entertaining. I didn't think that Dominic was going to come out of this as the winner, but it was definitely a very entertaining matchup.
Penta hit that sacrifice. You get the Penta driver, picks up that win. Carlito,
poor Carlito.
Probably the most talked about person on from Monday Night Raw, second most talked. Well, maybe the third most talked about since that Hinchcliffe was on commentary for the previous segment. Do you remember when Dennis Miller hosted the Slammy Awards? And it just like completely bombed.
Not really.
That's what him on commentary reminded me of.
Oof.
Yeah. But yeah, Carlito attacked Penta after the match. Braun Breaker at maybe 100 miles per hour runs straight down the entrance ramp and spears Carlito in half with the best spear I've ever seen.
Yeah, this was nasty. I mean, he launched himself through the air.
If you haven't watched that spear at least 10 times, I don't know if you like pro wrestling. that was literally one of the craziest spears I've ever seen, if not the craziest.
I agree. It really was.
And then Braun Breaker, of course, he speared Dominic Mysterio. He speared Penta. Finn Balor showed up from behind and took Braun Breaker out, but Braun Breaker got up and went for a spear, but Finn Balor escaped that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was, it was a fine main event, but that spear spot, that's one of those spots that are going to be replayed over and over again.
Yeah, that's a spot that's going to be, when they have like a best of Monday Night Raw episode, that's going to be included on there.
And then Carlito posted on Twitter, rest in peace to me or whatever. I thought that was funny. Because that was literally,
he did great with
that. Crazy, crazy spot.
Yeah, a very good spot.
To close Monday Night Raw, you had Paul Heyman come out. And he said that he's always going to be loyal to Roman Reigns. He's always going to be loyal to his best friend, CM Punk. And he went to address WrestleMania, and Seth Rollins showed up. And he asked Paul Heyman, whose side are you on? Because neither of them care about you. Roman Reigns uses Paul Heyman. And he brought up how Roman at Madison Square Garden left Paul Heyman all by himself to be destroyed by that new bloodline after WrestleMania last year. And CM Punk wasn't there to rescue Paul Heyman. And he brought up how at War Games, it was Seth Rollins who was asked first before CM Punk. And CM Punk only joined that War Games team because he knew he would get a guaranteed favor out of Paul Heyman. Therefore, he does not care about Paul Heyman. And Seth Rollins said that it's probably best if Paul removes himself from the whole situation. And Seth Rollins offered to take him out. He's like, I could make it as painless as possible. And he started pushing.
He's making a great point.
Yeah, 100%. Very, very much so a great point.
Yeah.
Seth Rollins started pushing Paul Heyman around a little bit. He's like, how much is it worth? How much is it worth? Or something like that. He gets Paul in the corner. And CM Punk runs down to brawl. And CM Punk set Seth Rollins up to stomp him on the steel steps, but he got back into the ring and then stomped CM Punk. And then he teased doing a stomp to Paul Heyman and stopped and said, now you owe me a favor.
Paul Heyman was checking on CM Punk and everything, and he was lined up perfectly for that curb stomp from Seth Rollins, and then Seth Rollins just stopped right in the nick of time being like, now you owe me. You think that we could see...
I don't necessarily think that means... Like, to me, that doesn't add up as a favor.
I don't either, but he's pretty much saying I could have crushed you right there.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
And I think a lot of people now are going in that direction where it seems like now Paul Heyman could actually be leaving WrestleMania with a new Paul Heyman guy.
I mean, Seth Rollins is the only person that hasn't taken advantage of him.
And I wouldn't mind seeing
Right.
Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins together.
I wouldn't either. It's not like Seth Rollins needs somebody to be on the mic with him, but it would definitely be something different that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, but again, that's like
I think it
I
would
don't
be
think
great.
Paul Heyman necessarily mouthpiece wise. I feel like a few people he would have been that for, but like CM Punk, not really. Roman Reigns, not really. So, and obviously Seth Rollins doesn't need that.
No. But it was definitely very entertaining. A great way to conclude Monday Night Raw.
Moving over to NXT, it opened with Jordynne Grace picking up the victory over Jada Parker via disqualification. You had Stephanie Vicor doing commentary. That counter from Jordynne Grace into that German suplex. I think Josh Woods also does that spot. Crazy spot.
I gotta say, so that spot I was nervous with. I thought that it was very dangerous at the beginning, but it was a good save.
Well, she caught her balance on that, it seemed.
Yeah, she definitely maintained her balance, thank goodness.
But yeah, Jada Parker ended up attacking Stephanie Vicor. Vicor went to attack Jada Parker and accidentally hit Jordynne Grace, leading to that disqualification. Then you had Julia run down and brawled with Stephanie Vicor. And she ended up hitting that Northern Lights bomb. And did she hold up that title? I think she might have.
I don't remember.
And Stephanie Vicor spoke to Ava later on and said, I want all four of them. All three of them. So it's Stand and Deliver. We got that fatal four-way.
Yeah.
And people are like,
Next up
people are
after
so
that, you had
pissed. Like,
Fraxi.
why did everything happen? Why did she have to drop the title? Why did Julia drop the title? Maybe she was actually injured.
I mean,
right? That's a thought.
I do agree about the dropping of the title.
But maybe she was injured. Like if that's up in the air,
Then
that's up in the air.
I would just say straight up about the injury then, instead of dropping it.
I don't know.
But next up, you had Fraxium pick up the victory and securing their tag team titles over Swipe Right.
I don't think this was a title match.
I think that it was.
I don't think this was a
or
title
they
match.
just maybe it wasn't a title match, but your tag team champion still picking up a victory.
By the way, Hank and Tank spoke to Swipe Right before this, and they very, very cockily said, "Is that a word? Is cockily
Yeah,
a
why
word?
not?
I don't know." But they
Use it.
They said that they would teach them something, so I thought that was a good aspect to play into what's been going on with Hank and Tank as of late.
Mm-hmm.
But Fraxium definitely back on the same page for this match.
Yeah.
And I thought
a lot of innovative moves.
And I thought it was a good showcase for Swipe Right. It was pretty much nonstop
Yeah,
action.
good showing for them.
This whole match, and to me, I'd say this was a good reason to tune into Evolve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then later
they did
on,
great.
the Culling picked up the victory over Hank and Tank, which Hank and Tank controlled that whole match, which I was very surprised by. And eventually, Hank missed the Swanton, and the Culling hit that Dominator top rope knee drop combo to pick up the win.
Yeah, that was a cool combo deal.
And then even later on, the Street Profits showed up to give Hank and Tank advice and be like, brother, you're trying to be all these teams that you're not. Just be you. And he tried to fire Hank and Tank up. I think, is there a battle royal or a gauntlet match or something next week on NXT, I think, to crown number one contenders. So I don't think it'll be Hank and Tank, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely find out. Later on, next up, you had Sol Ruka pick up the victory over Jasmine Nix to qualify for the ladder match. Sol Ruka, what a showing.
I thought this was funny beforehand that Fallon Henley was like, oh, I'm definitely the one that's in this match. And then JC was like, you had your shot, you blew it, I'm in this match. And Jasmine Nix was like, absolutely not. You're both wrong, I'm in this match. Which there was, when they said that it was going to be a member of of that group, I was like, well, obviously it's going to be Jasmine Nix, because Jasmine Nix is going to be the one that is able to eat that pin from Sol Ruka. So there was no doubt in my mind that Sol Ruka was making it into that ladder match. I enjoyed what they did, but Fatal Influence got involved, which allowed for Jasmine Nix to hit that Pele kick. But Sol Ruka kicked out of that. She hit the Soul Snatcher and picked up that win.
Yeah, solid win. We
had Ricky Saints come out, and he brought up Ethan Page, and he's like, I get why he did what he did last week. And he called Ethan Page out to talk about that moment, but it was Lexis King that showed up instead. And then Lexis King was interrupted by Eddie Thorpe, and then Wes Lee showed up, and they all spoke, and
everybody showed up.
Yeah, and Ethan Page showed up and hit Ricky Saints with that twist of fate. And then the four of them went to pick up that title and ended up brawling as well.
Yeah, I thought that was a good spot where everybody just picked it up at once, too.
But the IWC is not handling this well. It's
Why?
AEW and AEW and AEW and AEW. How dare they?
Oh, goodness gracious.
But,
IWC, get over it.
But Wes Lee ends up picking up the victory over Inamura after that. Wes Lee also, he tried to start the match with a dive to the outside, but Inamura caught him and slammed him onto the apron. So I liked throughout this whole match, throughout all these matches that we're seeing from Inamura, we're getting to see more and more of his strength there. So I like those spots.
Definitely something that's... Yeah, it's something, definitely a style that we haven't seen in WWE in a long time.
Something that didn't make sense in that previous segment that happened here, DuPont and Igwe got involved. When Josh Briggs tried to get them away at one point, he ends up shaking the rope, or he ends up pulling one of them off the apron, which shook the rope, which caused Inamura to fall off, and that led to the end of the match. But why didn't Tyson DuPont and Tyreek get involved in that segment beforehand and help Wes Lee out? That didn't make sense to me, because they were both ringside for that whole segment. So I thought that was interesting that they didn't even remotely try and join that brawl.
Yeah.
After that, you had Izzy Dane pick up the victory over Ren Sinclair to... Yeah, Ren Sinclair. That was so weird. I almost said, in my head, I was thinking of her old name. And I was like, that doesn't sound right. But yeah, so Izzy Dane picked up the victory over Ren Sinclair to advance to that ladder match at Stand and Deliver. And this was a tough match for me to pick, because I really, really wanted Ren Sinclair to move on. And in my head, I also know that Izzy Dane needed that win. So, and Ren Sinclair, she controlled most of this match. Very unfortunate ending. Izzy Dane hit that sky high and let go of the pin at 2, which I'm almost, the only thing I could assume, I'm almost certain that one of the men ringside hit the mat.
Yeah, very unfortunate, because, like you said, it was a good match, solid match, and then her letting go of that just too soon.
She got screwed by the sound.
Huh?
She got screwed by the sound. Someone outside the ring hit the mat, and then the referee started counting. It sounded like it would have been a 1 count. So that really sucked. And then people put blame on Izzy for that. People put blame on the referee for that. I truly think it was because of someone outside the ring. You can't see it in the clip, but somebody definitely hit that ring mat.
Yeah, I mean, you saw a few people hitting the ring on the outside, but
throughout the match you saw stuff like that. But like during the actual pin clip, you can't actually see somebody hitting the mat, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a sound of a ring mat hit.
I think one of the guys hits it.
It might have been Dempsey. I'm not 100% sure.
I forgot which one I saw. It was on the left side of the ring,
but it was definitely a ring mat hit, to the point where I felt so bad, because that spot looked awful. But I completely understand why that happened.
Yeah, it didn't do any justice.
And then backstage, all the women were arguing, and Ava was like, there's not going to be a last chance spot for the ladder match at Stand and Deliver, but I have an idea. What that idea is, I'm assuming we're going to find out next week, given that Stand and Deliver is also taking place next week. Main event saw Dark State pick up the victory over Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and Oba Femi. Osiris got involved a few times in this match. He wasn't one of the people in the actual match, but this match was hot. Oba Femi at one point prevented Trick Williams from getting that hot tag from Javon Evans, and even he threw Saquon into Trick Williams. That led to them arguing, and it eventually led to Trick and Oba Femi fighting. Javon happened to be the legal competitor, hit the frog splash, but Cutler James kicked out of that. Saquon Sugars pulled the rope to prevent the springboard from Javon Evans, and then the three of them hit that, I don't even know, a diving powerbomb, falling powerbomb spot? I don't even know what to call it.
I couldn't even tell you.
Three-man move.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't even tell you.
And then Stax appeared on the screen afterwards to challenge Dark State to I assume a parking lot brawl. He said show up in the parking lot or whatever for next week. Doesn't seem like it's a Tony D'Angelo decision.
It does make you wonder.
So we'll see more about that. Gonna move over to SmackDown. It kicked off with Nick Aldis coming out, addressing what happened with Randy Orton last week. He called Randy Orton out, and Orton told him not to take what happened personally. And he brought up how he paid a fine a few years ago in double. So I like that they brought that back. I saw that going around on Twitter. But Randy Orton said that he needs an opponent for WrestleMania. He, I guess, kind of teased Nick Aldis being that opponent. He also brought up Mickie James, saying he can't promise to apologize to her if Nick Aldis doesn't give Randy Orton the match he wants. And then Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga came out. Solo told Nick Aldis to tell Randy Orton to get out of the ring. He put Jacob Fatu over. Randy Orton challenged them to get in. They eventually take over, and then LA Knight made the save. I was expecting Braun Strowman, but it sets up a tag team match for the main event. I'll put a pin in that. You had Bayley and Lyra Valkyria win a gauntlet match to become number one contenders for the tag team championships. They started with Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler. There were some confusing tag spots with PFC, but there was no doubt in my mind that I knew who was winning that. You had Natty and Maxine out next. Fans were behind Maxine, and she got some good stuff in there, but again, nobody was beating Bayley and Lyra. Natty called for a tag, and Maxine, instead of actually tagging Natalya, she was just trying to lock in that sharpshooter. Bayley rolled her up, got that win. Kaden Carter and Katana Chance lost next. I liked the Nightwing setup with Lyra and Katana Chance. I think that was probably my favorite part of that whole entire gauntlet match. But you had Mia Yim and B-Fab next. I was hoping for these matches to be more impressive like we've seen with gauntlets in the past. They didn't really do much, but the Secret Hervis was the final team out. They definitely controlled a lot of the final match. But like I keep saying, there was nobody that was beating Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. Piper at one point powerbombed. She got powerbombed by Lyra Valkyria. Bayley hit an elbow drop, and Piper, very surprisingly, kicked out at one. And I think they did a good job at making it look like the Secret Hervis could win that match. Like, of all the teams, that's who looked most likely to win if it wasn't going to be Bayley and Lyra. And obviously, I think they had them run through that gauntlet to make it look like they're an actual team that can actually take down the champions. And I think that was a smart decision going into WrestleMania. Later on, Zelina Vega picked up the victory over Chelsea Green via countout. Zelina made fun of Chelsea Green not having the Secret Hervis. And then they brawled outside the ring. the ending was super confusing. I didn't realize that the referee was even near a 10 count. So that came out of nowhere for me, but that's how that match ended. After that, you were supposed to have a face-to-face with Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. McIntyre attacked Damian Priest during his entrance. They end up brawling. McIntyre spoke after that and said that he's always justified in what he does. Not 100% wrong in saying that. He also took his eye patch off to say he's 100% cleared. I kind of wish they did that at WrestleMania. But Damian Priest came back out, took out security. They went back to brawling. I think this perfectly sets up a Sin City street fight without extreme overkill. You have the steel steps involved. Nothing too crazy, except for the eyes that Damian Priest had at that after the Future Shock. After that, you had Fenix pick up the victory over Humberto. I didn't realize that the two of them have actually wrestled before in tag matches and multi-man matches in other companies in Mexico, so I thought that was pretty cool. And this was a fun match again. I'm glad it wasn't one-sided. Afterwards, Santos Escobar helped Rey Fenix up and made Humberto shake his hand, which he did, but he wasn't happy about it. He did it in passing and left. And then backstage, Escobar spoke to Los Garza, and he put Fenix over, and then threw Humberto's words from last week into his face. And they walked off, and Andrade showed up and hyped Humberto up when he was left there sulking. And then Humberto, instead of saying thank you or shaking Andrade's hand or anything, he told him to mind his own business. So what they're doing there, I think, is interesting. I don't know if it's going to lead to Los Garza versus Rey Fenix and Andrade, but we'll see. You had Cody Rhodes come out. They had a bunch of the old WWE Championship set up in the ring. There was a version of the WWF Championship. The Hogan title was there, the Winged Eagle, the Big Eagle, the Undisputed Championship, and the Spinner Championship. It was a very Cody segment, and he spoke about John Cena and the common fan comment that John made, and he's like, so what? I have the tattoo because I want to be somebody. And he put the roster over. Basically always also said that when he's backed into a corner, that's when he's at his best. He's retaining at WrestleMania. He's defending the championship for the past, the present, and the future. I thought this was a good segment. I thought it was cool to see that WWF Championship. I feel like we don't really see that often. After that, Tiffany Stratton picked up the victory over Roxanne Perez. Earlier in the parking lot, Charlotte attacked Tiffany Stratton and was sent home for that. And I feel like Roxanne Perez was also there. And I feel like the reason why she was there wasn't said. I could have completely missed it. But the match itself I thought was fine. Roxanne got away with raking Tiffany Stratton's eyes at one point behind the referee's back. And they both did put a lot into the match. I was just very confused as to why Roxanne was there. But Tiffany Stratton won with the prettiest moonsault ever. Charlotte ends up attacking Tiffany Stratton afterwards. And I feel like they could have just had a random member of the roster face Tiffany Stratton in that moment and then have Charlotte just interrupt the match and do what she did anyway. I liked the end of that segment where Wade Barrett was trying to talk sense into Charlotte to get her to stop, which he ends up getting her to stop. Every week I'll say this, I hope Tiffany Stratton retains. In the main event, Randy Orton and LA Knight picked up the victory over the Bloodline. It was a pretty standard tag team match. I think there could have been more control from the referee in this match. You had Solo Sikoa at one point hit the Samoan Spike on LA Knight. Orton dropped Tama Tonga with the RKO. And then Orton and Solo Sikoa brawled off into the crowd. LA Knight goes on to win with the BFT. Jacob Fatu shows up afterwards. He attacks LA Knight. And I guess Randy Orton doesn't have a match at WrestleMania, or he has a quick match against Solo Sikoa on one of the nights. I don't know. But that is SmackDown. Gonna take a quick little break right now, and I'll be right back here on Markin Out.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your hero, Chris Hero, and you're listening to Markin Out.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Markin Out episode 740. Moving back to AEW Collision from last week, it opened with the Don Callis family picking up the victory over Powerhouse Hobbs and Ishii. It's a meaningless match. There was no way Don Callis' family was losing this. You had Mark Briscoe pick up the victory over Max Caster, which this was one of those matches to get Briscoe a win before he loses on pay-per-view. But I guess they forgot to build up Mark Briscoe before the pay-per-view because he hadn't had a singles match since December. So that's unfortunate. He hasn't won a singles match, I mean. Top Flight picked up the victory over Action Andretti and Leo Rush. I think this was a good match, and it sets up a match for Dynasty. Crew beat Top Flight down after the match. AR Fox made the save. Nick Wayne showed up and took AR Fox out. There's your setup. You had Pac pick up the victory over Cash Wheeler. This was like Edge versus Claudio and Dax versus Wheeler Yuta. It just further sets up the pay-per-view. Claudio and Wheeler Yuta showed up during the match. Edge fought with Claudio. Wheeler Yuta brought that hammer into the match, and Dax got hit with it. The oblivious referee turns around to see Wheeler Yuta in the ring. He sees the hammer in the ring, does absolutely nothing about it. Pac rolls Cash up, picks up the victory there. Mike Bailey picked up the victory over Dralistico with Ricochet on commentary. Dralistico's only singles win in AEW was an episode of AEW Dark in 2022, so this match doesn't scream, hey, I could beat Kenny Omega, or hey, I could even beat Ricochet. I do have to say, I very much so enjoyed Ricochet on commentary, and take the fact that this didn't make me believe that Speedball Mike Bailey could win on pay-per-view against either of them. This was a good match. After the match, Ricochet kicked Speedball below the belt and hit that clothesline to knock him out. Again, that further sets up Dynasty. Main event saw Athena and Julia Hart pick up the victory over Mercedes Moné and Harley Cameron. The backstage segment with Harley Cameron and Mercedes Moné and Minnie Monet I thought was great. The match was very entertaining. I wish it was longer. Ultimately, this was to give Julia a victory before losing to Mercedes Moné on that pay-per-view, but like I said, I enjoyed this match. AEW Dynasty, I did not watch. Nick Wayne and crew picked up the victory over Top Flight and AR Fox. You had Anthony Bowens make his return to answer Max Caster's open challenge, beat him. The match was, like 40 seconds long? Anthony Bowens was last seen January 1st, and you put him on the kickoff show? They did this with Jamie Hayter, too, with her return. Why not? It's 40 seconds. What does that take away from the actual pay-per-view if you do this on the actual pay-per-view? I don't get that, but I'm glad Anthony Bowens is back. Brand new presentation, 5-tool player. We've seen Anthony Bowens from the very start of his career, and I've said he's one of the best. He's one of the best that I've seen, even early on in that career. So I'm happy to see this presentation for him. The actual pay-per-view kicked off. Will Ospreay picked up the victory over Kevin Knight to advance in the Owen Hart tournament. The Hurt Business retained the championships against the Learning Tree with not the help of Max, but MJF was involved. Mercedes Moné, like I said, beat Julia Hart to advance in that Owen tournament. The Death Riders beat Rated FTR to retain. Dax attacked Edge afterwards. And Cash acted like he was maybe on Edge's side there, pushing Dax away, like, what the hell? And then they both attacked Edge. And people are clamoring for Edge and Christian to reunite, as if we haven't spent years of Christian being quite possibly one of the sleaziest people in AEW history. So if they are gearing up towards Edge and Christian reuniting, they need to do some serious work in order to get anybody to believe or forget everything that Christian's done. You had Tony Storm pick up the victory over Megan Bayne to retain the championship. Kyle Fletcher beat Mark Briscoe to advance in the Owen, because Mark Briscoe, like I said before, doesn't win. Bandito beat Jericho in a mask versus title match to become the new ROH champion. You had a goofy finish where Bandito's family ended up telling the referee, the second referee, and they restarted the match. You had Adam Cole pick up the victory over Daniel Garcia to become the new TNT champion. Hopefully this is like the start of an incredible reign. On Dynamite, they introduced themselves. They as in Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong as Paragon. I guess Undisputed Kingdom is done. Perhaps they're not even in AEW anymore. I have no idea. You had Kenny Omega pick up the victory over Ricochet and Mike Bailey to retain the championship. Okada showed up afterwards. I think everybody knew this was happening. They teased All In literally months ago. Main event saw Jon Moxley pick up the victory over Swerve to retain the championship. Hangman showed up, teased going for Swerve, but if you've been following the story, it would have been he was clearly going to be going for Jon Moxley. Had the Death Riders not shown up. They took him out eventually. The lights go out. Who could it be? It's Philadelphia. Who can it be? They come back on. They have Swerve in the perfect position for that BTE trigger. Swerve is freaking out. And they hit it on Swerve, and Mox wins the match. So Mox is still champion, even though literally crowd after crowd after crowd after crowd, including the IWC. The small part of an actual crowd is the IWC, but the IWC all wanted Jon Moxley. Or maybe there was a 0.5% that didn't want Jon Moxley to lose. Everybody's over it. You had AEW Dynamite, though. Jon Moxley kicks off the show taking on and beating Shibata. Why? I understand that the Ops got involved in that Dynasty main event, but why was this a match? I didn't understand that at all. At one point, Shibata popped up right after a pile driver. Commentary was like, oh, I've never seen this before. It literally happens every single week in AEW. Every single week, somebody pops up from a pile driver. Please stop that. You have the Young Bucks come out afterwards. Something happened with Jon Moxley. He ends up leaving. I'm not sure what Mox said to them, but I don't know if that'll eventually lead to something. I'm sure it will. But the Young Bucks spoke about doing what they did at Dynasty for Hangman Adam Page. They also considered what they did a peace offering to the Death Riders, because the last time we saw them, they were frantically shredding papers and very much so scared of the Death Riders. And they asked Jon Moxley and the Death Riders to come out so basically they could join forces to form a brand new AEW. And it was Kenny Omega who showed up instead. He told an absolutely awful story to use as an analogy for the Young Bucks about his friend's dog taking a poop on the carpet multiple times. And then he said that he'd just come to the ring to fight them. Okada showed up, Swerve showed up with a chair, and they walked off. I thought all of this was awful. Kenny Omega and Swerve fist bumped each other. Omega left, and Swerve starts talking about hunting the EVPs now. Meanwhile, the EVPs just left and you clearly aren't hunting them because you're still in the ring. And Pac attacked him from behind. Swerve beat Pac. I don't know why Swerve would care about Pac, though. Why not just automatically go after the Young Bucks? You were just talking, I'm hunting the EVPs. But I'm going to go because I got attacked from behind, perhaps. But this match was already randomly set up. It was already announced for Dynamite. So I don't understand why Swerve would care about this match instead of just going after especially after what the Young Bucks did to him. They cost him that title, but let me wrestle Pac first. I don't get that at all. The end of this match probably came short because something happened with Pac's foot. It stopped the match for a bit, and he got back into the ring. Almost immediately gets hit with that stomp from Swerve. Hopefully Pac is all right. It seemed like if they were going to cut the match short, then maybe it could be something unfortunate. You had Will Ospreay, Mark Briscoe, Kevin Knight, and Mike Bailey team up to pick up the victory over Ricochet, Black Taurus, and Crew to win a $400,000 tag team match. For whatever reason, the referee had no control. At this point, I truly contemplated just turning this off. You had the Hurt Business celebration where MJF came out, stood with them like he's in the group. He addressed not wanting to do the Owen tournament, which I think is a smart thing for them to have put in there because a lot of people were like, why the hell is MJF not in this tournament? But Bobby Lashley said that MJF didn't get the job done at Dynasty. It was Lashley who won the match for them. MVP basically said that MJF needs 3 thumbs up like he's on American Idol in order to join the Hurt Business. Shelton Benjamin puts a thumb down. He and Lashley left. MVP left after that, but he looked at MJF. And then later on they spoke, and MJF and MVP ended up speaking where it kind of seems like MVP's giving MJF some advice as to maybe how to get them to trust him. So ultimately, I still would really like to see MJF joining the Hurt Business. You had Chris Statlander, although I don't know why MJF would be necessarily chasing another friendship, even though it's like, I'll scratch your back, you'll scratch mine sort of situation with him. You had Chris Statlander pick up the victory over Thunder Rosa to advance in the Owen Hart tournament. Tony Storm was on commentary. This was the only match that I actually cared about for Dynamite. I like that Blue Thunder Bomb transition from Chris Statlander after she caught Thunder Rosa from a move from the middle rope. I thought that was nice. I wish they did more to make me believe that Thunder Rosa was going to advance in this match. But like I said, this was the match that I was tuning in for. You need more women's matches. You absolutely need more women's matches. More meaningful women's matches, too. There's absolutely no reason why there couldn't be 2 women's matches on this card. Why was that $400,000 thing a thing? You had the Learning Tree come out where Big Bill kind of stands up to Chris Jericho. Jericho kind of hypes him and Brian Keith up. And then he yelled at Big Bill for not being there at the pay-per-view and how some might say that it was because of Big Bill that he lost the championship. And Jericho's like, I'm not going to say that, though. That's other people. And I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. He kept saying that over and over again. He smashed the heck out of the set. He broke the television. And then he said that until they change, it's best that he leaves. Obviously, Fozzie's going on a tour, so if you didn't know that, Jericho's off TV. You don't have to beat him up or anything to get him off. You just have him flip out, I guess. You had the Ops pick up the victory over the Death Riders in the main event. There was a moment where I definitely don't think Hook kicked out of a 3 count, but they continued with the match. Jon Moxley got involved. Shibata choked him out. Samoa Joe's choking, I think, Claudio outside. Hook locked Wheeler Yuta in the Red Rum, picks up the victory there. Then Marina Shafir hits Samoa Joe with a steel chair. The Death Riders get the upper hand. Claudio hits a neutralizer on a chair to Hook. And then Samoa Joe challenged them for the Trios Championships. This was truly one of the worst episodes of AEW Dynamite. I don't say that often, but it was truly one of the worst episodes of Dynamite, especially to follow up a pay-per-view. To follow up a pay-per-view, they opened with, hey, ladies and gentlemen, we have Double or Nothing coming up. There was no breathing room there. It was awful. So that's AEW Dynamite. Hey, Brandon, got any shout-outs?
Hey, wow, this is Owen Wilson. You're listening to Brandon's shout-outs.
The first shout-out goes to Running Point, which came out about a month ago on Netflix. It's about a group of siblings who own a pro basketball team. Kate Hudson stars in it alongside Drew Tarver, Scott MacArthur, Brenda Song, Fabrizio Guido, Jay Ellis, Chet Hanks, Toby Sanderman is in it. Justin Theroux and Max Greenfield, as well as John Glazer, make appearances throughout the episodes. So many other people appear on the show. Macaulay Culkin had a fun cameo. But
that's pretty cool.
Kate Hudson's character becomes the president of the team after one of their brothers steps down to go to rehab. And then she has to prove, obviously, to the world, I guess, that a woman can run a team like that. I guess Jeannie Buss is the executive producer of the show, and it's like very loosely based on her life. I guess I'm assuming when her father passed away, she stepped up and became the president of the Lakers. So I enjoyed the show. It's a very quick watch. You can probably get it done under 5 hours for season 1. So check that out.
I'm not familiar with the show. I think I've seen it appear, but I've never actually watched a piece of it.
Not 100% sure if they said there's a season 2 or not yet, but I would find it difficult to believe that there wouldn't be. So my next shout out goes to Not Just a Goof, which is a brand new documentary that was released this week on Disney Plus on the 30th anniversary of a Goofy movie. And it's a whole documentary about the movie and behind the scenes of how they made it, which it's cool that they have all that footage because Kevin Lima, the director, decided to film all of that way back when, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This was co-directed by his nephew, so I thought that was pretty cool that he was able to go through all that footage and take it and then make this documentary about his uncle who had such an impact on his life and put it towards that. But despite a Goofy movie being a flop when it came out, it grew to be that incredible cult classic because it came out on VHS pretty quickly. And I'm just happy to see that movie get so much appreciation 30 years later.
You ready for me to tell you something?
You've never seen it? Or
I've actually never seen it.
I was going to say, you're either going to tell me you've never seen it or you saw it in theaters.
Yeah, I've actually never seen it.
I don't know how.
Or at least if I've seen it, I really don't recall it. But yeah,
it's
I really don't.
Pretty powerful movie, I would say. No pun intended there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it's crazy.
Everybody loves the movie.
A little spoiler alert here. In the documentary, they're talking about how they didn't think Bill Farmer was working for what Jeffrey Katzenberg wanted for Goofy. Bill Farmer is like the voice of Goofy for our generation, at least. So they wanted Steve Martin to do it. And they were like, so you want Steve Martin to do a Goofy impression? He's like, no, I just want Steve Martin to be Goofy. And it's like, is that the right call there?
I don't know how I would.
That would have been.
I don't know how I would feel about that.
Yeah, that would have completely. I mean, it would have put a huge name on the movie like that, but that would have been so weird. They also did a whole. They re-recorded the whole movie where Bill Farmer was just himself and not doing Goofy. And they were like, yeah, that also doesn't work. So so I'm glad that they eventually got to where they got and let Bill Farmer just be Goofy. Like, I don't know why. Like,
That's
why
wild.
change something that doesn't seem broken?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a few years ago when they were doing that Christopher Robin movie. And I don't think Jim Cummings was going to be Pooh or Tigger. And it's like, well, why?
Isn't that Pooh and Tigger?
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. And then finally there was like an uproar over that. I don't know if it was because of the fan pushback or what, but they were like, oh, he'll do it. So, but go check out Not Just a Goof and watch a Goofy movie. My last shout out goes to Johnny Tillotson, who unfortunately passed away last week at the age of 86. He was a country and pop singer from the 50s and 60s and had hit songs like Poetry in Motion and It Keeps Right On a Hurtin', which was covered by many big names like Bobby Darin, Dean Martin, Elvis Presley did the cover of that song. He's another artist I wish I got to see in concert, but unfortunately never got to. I've probably listened to Poetry in Motion at least a couple of hundred times. So, it was very unfortunate to see that. So, go listen to all his music this weekend. And those are my shout outs. Now it's time for That is right, our Mark Out moment of the week. I think we got to talk about one of the biggest topics that maybe lasted only a day in the IWC, maybe a day and a half. Olivia Rodrigo went viral in the wrestling community this week because she posted some photographs on Instagram from Mexico. She was recently there performing the Guts World Tour, and an off day from the tour, she went to a CMLL show in Arena, Mexico. So, and she did it in a lucha mask. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I think that's awesome. I mean, especially her showing up in the lucha mask. Yeah. That's great.
I wonder if people were like, I'm sure we would have heard about it if people spotted her.
I'm sure nobody did.
Yeah. But that's a pretty cool thing to do. Triple H was on the Tonight Show this week to promote WrestleMania and kind of the WWE Hall of Fame. And I always think it's cool when a pro wrestler is on a show like the Tonight Show. I don't get why he didn't promote Stand and Deliver also. I feel like that's something... like, is that not something you would automatically think to do?
I think so.
But that didn't happen. But they had a fun segment where they were able to, I guess, have people relate to Triple H, even if they don't even know what pro wrestling is. They showed pictures of Terror Rising so they could laugh at that. They showed Jean-Paul Levesque. They showed a promo of him trying to do the French accent and everything.
That's funny.
And I was like I say, I always think it's like the coolest thing when wrestlers are on the Tonight Show. And then I woke up the next day and so many people, the IWC, trashing it, of course. Because how dare he be the one to do the show? Why isn't it talent? Why is it Triple H? Why is it always Triple H? How dare he promote WrestleMania when he's not booked? WWE can't create new stars. All
people
of
are
that.
Stupid.
So goofy. So goofy. The IWC is so toxic. It's like the internet theme park community, I'm growing to realize, is beyond toxic as well. With the whole Epic universe coming out, I'm very much so discovering how toxic that side of the internet is as well.
I mean, nothing for nothing. It looks incredible.
The more I see of Epic Universe, the less I care, though. Because the only thing that really draws me to that park is the Monsters universe. Because I don't care about How to Train Your Dragon. I don't care about Mario like that. Mm-hmm. If I had the means, I would 100% go and check everything out. And I certainly don't care about Harry Potter. But I would still go and check everything out.
That's the thing. I would care about the Harry Potter and the Monsters.
Yes. And I mean, the everything that they've built looks incredible. But I'm just like, I don't need, like, that's nothing, like, jumps out to where I'm like, I need to go there. Yeah. They also, they showed off, like, menu items for stuff, and one of the Monsters universe, there's, like, I think it's called Das Steakhouse, where, because the vampires, they're serving stuff on steaks. They're, like, toothpicks almost. They put chicken fingers on steaks for a kid's menu, for a kid's meal. Which I feel like is, first of all, dangerous, but people are like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever, I love this. Well, brother, they put toothpicks. They put chicken fingers on toothpicks. They didn't reinvent anything. They put chicken fingers on toothpicks. Like come on. I just, it's so
Crazy.
All of that is so
Crazy.
goofy as well. And then they just announced, I guess they're opening a Universal over in the UK as well. With I think
I saw that they're gonna have in the UK the Minions, Lord of the Rings,
which I've never seen any of those movies for the most part either, so I don't know what Lord of the Rings could possibly feature.
probably a ton. You could probably do a lot with it.
No Harry Potter. Warner Brother owns the rights over in the UK, so I thought that's very interesting.
Who else is going to be there?
James Bond. You have
James.
Back to the Future, that coaster that's been rumored for, I think, probably years at this point, is finally being made.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be cool to see pictures from that and videos from that as well. I'm enjoying all the influencers, the content creators. I'm enjoying their videos and stuff from it. I would just like to see.
I started watching some the other day. I'm going to watch more.
I just want to see the rides though, which I don't know if they're allowed to post that yet. So
I don't know. I want to watch that ride through for it.
I think that'll come probably
Monsters.
in May. I think that's when they'll probably be allowed to do it.
Release it.
But yeah, and also that
I saw some of the internal of Monsters.
yeah, I saw some of that as well, and I don't know. To me, it just seems okay.
I think that the projection aspect of what they're doing for the rides to make them look a little bit better is really insane.
The like, what do you mean?
So I guess to have the face of some of the characters.
Yeah, they have facial projections, which people complain when Disney does it, but when Universal does it, they're like, "This is the greatest thing ever." So it's like, I said, that's super toxic.
I didn't realize that Disney was doing the projection to the faces either.
Yeah.
I think that's genius.
Disney.
That's incredible.
Part of me wants to say it's probably not accurate, but part of me wants to say that the first time they did that was Buzz Lightyear, but I don't think that's 100% sure.
I think
accurate.
From what I saw, I think they mentioned that they used it at the haunted house. The faces on the statues.
Oh yeah, that's right. Not Buzz Lightyear. That's pretty stupid of me to not think of the busts.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, I think that's one of the times that I saw Disney using it in the video.
I know.
Just
Frozen
crazy
has that as well.
Yeah, the innovation is just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a great park.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I would, if I had the means, I would be going to Orlando, Florida, checking out. I haven't been to Universal Studios inside the actual park since 2008. So literally the last time I was there, they were like a month or so out from opening the Simpsons ride. So I have never even seen Springfield there. I've never seen Diagon Alley. I've never seen any of those Harry Potter things there. I'm almost certain the last time I was there, Jaws was still there. So
there you go.
So,
but
and then also WWE announced that the Legacy wing of the WWE Hall of Fame is coming back. They're inducting Kamala. They're inducting Dory Funk Sr. and Ivan Koloff. They haven't done the Legacy inductees since 2021, so I think it's nice to see new additions to that wing. I also think that Kamala and Ivan Koloff, I wish they were here for that. I think they should have been inducted.
Yeah,
while they were still living, you know.
Yeah, I could agree. I marked out because I saw that they're going to have a documentary on, I think, Peacock for WrestleMania 9.
Drops this week.
Yeah. I mean, I know people, it may not be the top of everybody's list, but I've said on the podcast that was my very first WrestleMania that I've seen. So it really does hold a special place for me.
Oftentimes
personally.
People say it's one of the worst.
I'm excited to, yeah, exactly. But as a kid, you're not looking at that. As a kid, you're looking for entertainment instead of, oh, this doesn't make sense. Like, as a kid watching this, Giant Gonzalez versus Undertaker was entertaining. You know, watching the Crush versus Doink and having Doink do the switcheroo. That was entertaining. Tatanka versus Shawn Michaels, I remember distinctly of that being the opener. Bob Backlund. Bobby the Brain Heenan coming out backwards on the camel. Like, it was just pure entertainment. So as a kid, I was highly entertained by it.
And you used to, because of that WrestleMania, you used to love dressing in togas, right?
Yes, that is true. That is very, very true. Yes, I can't deny that.
Well, those were our Mark Out moments of the week. Thank you so much for checking out episode 740. You could follow us on Twitter at Markin Out, at BTTG161, at Chris Sweendog, CMSweeney85 on Instagram, David PTDPT on all platforms, Facebook.com/MarkinOut, YouTube and Instagram, MarkinOut11, ProWrestlingTees.com/MarkinOut, at Markin Out on TikTok. You could rate, review, subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, markinout.com, and we wish you the best
of luck in your future endeavors.